welcome back to another exclusive interview from IpswichFanzone involving both me, Ashley Symonds, and fellow journalist and colleague Mark Tuxford. Mark, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, really good today, actually. Enjoyed the weather over the weekend, but it's a bit windy today, but hopefully it'll get better. I hope everyone appreciates that over the last week, Mark and myself have been busting our gut to bring you exclusives you would not normally get. So please do not hesitate to subscribe, like and follow where possible. We're on Twitter, Instagram. You may be watching on YouTube or listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Please show your encouragement by supporting the channel. Tonight, we have one of my favourite Ipswich players of all time. This player reminded me that he netted 48 times in 214 appearances rather than 47 last week. Represented Town in the Premier League and UEFA Cup. He was and always will be deadly from the penalty spot. It's Tommy Miller. Tommy, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. How are you doing, lads? All right?
Yeah, really well, thanks, mate. Really well. Looking forward to tonight and hearing your answers to our questions, really. So to start us off, I'll hand you over to Mark. Mark, take it away, mate.
So, Tommy, first and foremost, thanks for sitting down with Ipswich Fanzone for a chat tonight. So before we talk about your great career as a football professional, we have a couple of questions in regards to your early life in football as a child growing up. So am I right in thinking that you were a Sunderland fan growing up, is that right?
Yeah, I used to go to a lot of the games when I was younger, so they were my local team, yeah.
So, yeah, take me back to your days as a young boy and how your first interaction with football came about. Did your parents have much of an impact on your love of football, obviously being a Sunderland fan as well?
Yeah, they did. Obviously I played for the school team, the primary team, and then we had a Sunday team, a local team, which my dad managed. He was the manager, so I played for them from under 12s, 13s, 14s. And then obviously I got picked up for Ipswich as a schoolboy.
You say that you got picked up by Ipswich as a schoolboy, but if we're going back to when you were a Sunderland fan, did you go to many games at Roker Park, or did you watch football on TV? Just talk us through your memories of that time in your yard.
Yeah, I used to go to Roker Park when I was younger with my dad. I used to go to a lot of games there and watch Sunderland. My dad used to be a chief scout for quite a few different teams along the way, so we used to always get good tickets. Used to be always in and around the director's box, but it was a good time growing up. Sunderland had a good team, Gabardini and Gates up front, the G-Force. I used to enjoy the games. They were very, very good.
So from feeling the buzz in the stands of watching your heroes to actually making a mark on your own individual football career, obviously at the start in 1994, you started down south in your first of 3 spells at Ipswich Town before shortly going back up north to sort of Hartlepool's academy and making your way through there. So take me through the disappointments and joys of your youth career. Yeah,
that's right. I signed for Ipswich when I was 14-year-old. I was actually at the game when Ipswich played against Manchester United. Signed on that day when I was 14. I had 2 years there. When I was 16, I got released as a schoolboy. One of the reasons being too small. I was only 5'2" when I left school. But just going back to the under 16 days, I used to get the train down on a Saturday morning, stay with the family on the Saturday night, and then go and play in the game on the Sunday morning for Ipswich, and then get the train back down on the Sunday afternoon, late evening, ready for school the next day on the Monday.
So you had quite a busy schedule then, and if we go back to those days, you then made, you went to Hartlepool. Obviously, you then made your debut for Hartlepool in 1997 and had a good record there in the old Division 3, as it was known then. In a twist and turn of events, you found yourself back at Portman Road with Ipswich Town as a Premier League footballer. Just talk us through your feelings towards the club that released you as a schoolboy, now wanting you back this time as a Premier League footballer.
Yeah, it was quite surreal, Obviously, you went to Hartlepool, did my apprenticeship there, did my professional there. You owe them a lot, a fantastic club. It was a great grounding for us, I was playing in Division 3. You don't get much time on the ball. You're coming up against a lot of experienced professionals who want to kick you, want to hurt you. But it was a great learning curve for me. I went there and got into the first team, and managed to score quite a few goals. And then there was a few clubs interested, Ipswich being one of them. Obviously, with us being there as a schoolboy, I knew all about the place. And I had to go back. You know, it was as soon as they showed interest, I was always going to come back to Ipswich. I went and spoke to Coventry, Gordon Strachan. I went to speak to Crewe. There was rumours Celtic were interested, but as soon as Ipswich sort of came knocking, my mind was made up.
So just quickly, did that make the decision really easy for you then, that Ipswich had come back in, you know, a similar setting to what you'd experienced not too many years before? Was it easy to make that decision to come back down Portman Road?
Yeah, it was pretty easy. You know, Ipswich had just flew in the Premier League. You know, they were flying. You know, qualified for Europe, finished fourth. Fantastic season. I had to be realistic. I knew going from Division 3 to the Premier League was a massive jump, and I wasn't expecting to go straight into the team whatsoever. But I thought if I can go down there, learn from the players that were already there, the fantastic experience they had, the great manager they had in George Burley, I thought this is a fantastic opportunity for me, a chance to maybe be involved in UEFA Cup football. It was a chance I couldn't turn down, and I was obviously delighted when everything was signed and sealed.
So unfortunately, as you sort of touched upon, you know, you experienced relegation from the Premier League early on in your second stint at Ipswich. But on the other side of the coin, you did experience UEFA Cup football, which you obviously said about as well. So what was that time of your career like for you personally? I mean, it must have been, you know, bittersweet season, I expect.
It was bittersweet. You know, I'd waited a while to get in. I think I made my debut in Europe in the UEFA Cup in Russia. You know, I came on for the last 10 minutes, I think it was, which was live on the BBC. So that was a great experience for myself. And then my Premier League debut was against Chelsea at home, where we drew 0-0. Should have won. Marcus Bent had a penalty saved, but I had a decent enough game. And then I sort of got in towards the back end of the season, and unfortunately we got relegated, which was a shame, having seen what happened the year before. But these things happen, and at the end of the day, we weren't good enough, and we got relegated to the Championship.
Yeah, despite uncertain times after relegation and obviously the administration of the club, important players coming and going. Did you see that as an opportunity to make your mark on the team in Division 1 and help us get promotion?
Absolutely. Like I said earlier, I think the jump from Division 3 to the Premier League was obviously a massive jump, and not many players do that, sort of, certainly now. So I knew I'd have to bide my time. I got in at the back end of the season, obviously, like I said, and they got relegated. So it was my time for the Championship, I think. I think it was really, I could set a mark on this division, set a mark at this club, and hopefully do well and try and get them back into the Premier League where they belong. And unfortunately, we tried, and the playoffs sort of stopped us.
So despite all that then, you became an important player as a box-to-box midfielder that many fans feel we've missed actually since your departure. Another standout memory is your success from penalty set pieces. I personally don't remember you missing one. As fans, we got the feeling that you weren't going to miss. You know, we were confident of that. So, how much time did you spend on your technique and of taking penalties? Was it more of making on-the-spot decisions, or did you have sort of a plan in mind?
I'll be perfectly honest with you, I never ever practiced penalties. Never ever practiced them. I wouldn't go on the training ground or stay after training and sort of say get the keeper and go in goal and take some. It was on the day. I more or less knew where I was going to put it, and probably 90% out of the time I went the same corner. But if I connected right and got the power on it, that even if the keeper did go that side, he wouldn't save it. I had the one against Forest where it hit the post and sort of rolled and hit Darren Ward. And oh God, I've missed one, and then it got retook. I don't know why, but obviously I scored the retake, and my record sort of went on still. But no, I was very confident from the spot, very confident.
Tommy, if we look back at your Ipswich career, I would say personally 2004, 2005 was the pinnacle at Ipswich. Really, the season where you stood out, and obviously that season in itself was the season where I think you bagged 20, was it nearly 20 goals you scored that season?
Yeah, 15. Yeah, 15.
15, and then obviously Cucci and Bent had got, I think it was 39 or 40 between them. I mean, it was a really good season. But before we get on to that season in itself, I heard about a story that that you went away to Tenerife in the January before the interlude of that season. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
First and foremost, what a trip! What a trip! We're playing QPR away. I don't know if you can remember the game. I think we were either 2-0 down or 2-1 down at half time. We were due to fly out on the Sunday morning from Luton. So we were staying down after the QPR game, going to a hotel, and then flying out. We were having a little break. I don't think we had a game the week after. So Joe Ross said we need to go away, recharge the batteries. A little trip to Tenerife. So at half time, the trip was off. We're thinking, no chance, not happening. Second half, I think it finished 4-2. We certainly won the game anyway, and that's when I was doing the daft celebration of easy, where I'm clapping my hands at the fans and stuff like that. And as soon as I seen the goals, and I'm looking over to the dugout, and all the lads, the smile on the face, like the substitutes and everyone, they were just buzzing, because the trip
was that the game that Darren Curry scored on his debut?
It was,
that was the one,
absolutely. Yeah. It was, absolutely. And I think you see me sort of celebrating by myself, clapping my hands, doing the easy out and all that, by myself, completely out of the way. It's crazy, but it was. And so we won the game, and the trip was back on. So on the Sunday, we flew out to Tenerife, and George just said, "Listen, we're going to do a little bit of training, but also you can let your hair down and have a few drinks and enjoy yourself, really," which was good for the team spirit.
So
yeah, it's always good, isn't it?
Sorry, during that last season in 2005, obviously the club were on the cusp of automatic promotion, but unfortunately ended in the playoffs and ultimately lost to West Ham in the semis. Can you sort of take me through that season, and why do you think personally it ended in such disappointment?
It still sort of bugs me to this day, really, because it was a fantastic team to play in, first and foremost. Obviously, going forward, we were scoring goals at will. Maybe at the back at times we were a bit sort of open, and that's why teams were scoring against us. But if they scored 3, we would score 4. It was one of them. We just attacked in numbers. Joe Royal, especially for myself, was fantastic for me because I just had a license to get in the box. He used to just say to me, "Make sure you get forward, get in the box." And I had lads behind me like Jim Magilton, Kevin Horlock, when they played, who would do my sort of dirty work, really, and allow me to get forward and get the goals that I did. But you obviously had Benty, you had Shefke, you had Pablo. It was a frightening team to play in. Going forward, we were very, very creative. Darren Curry from the wing, when he played, he was whipping balls in. His delivery was second to none. So we just had goals all over. And then I think Sheffield got injured. I can't remember. It was about February, March time. And we had 2 home games, and I think they were against QPR and Watford. Not 100% sure. I'm sure one of them was definitely Watford, and we missed him. I think the way he was playing, he was unplayable. Absolute monster. He was steamrolling back 4s or back 5s. And in them 2 games, we really, really missed them. We didn't pick the points up in them games, and I think it knocked us a little bit. But we certainly should have won the league, or we should have been automatic promotion. It was a sickener to miss out for the second year on the bounce as well, having been beat off West Ham the previous year.
Yeah, if I remember rightly, we got pipped by, I think, about a point on the final day. We drew at Brighton, I think, 1-1, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And, we just missed out to Wigan, who were having a fantastic season themselves. Obviously, they had the likes of Leighton Baines, who scored that worldie at Portman Road, and also Jason Roberts was on fire, if I can remember rightly. But as a result of that season, the likes of Shefke Cucci, Darren Bent, and Kelvin Davis left for pastures new. This was also the time where your boyhood club, Sunderland, came in for you. Was it simply a move you couldn't turn down with your career? where it was at the time and the emotion attached with moving back home and playing for the team you supported as a boy?
Yeah, I think I spoke to Ipswich sort of towards the end of the season, and Joe Royle had more or less said, listen, we don't know what we can offer. We can't offer you anything as such at the minute. We don't know what league we're going to be in. Now, if something had been in writing or a contract had been put in front of us, I'm sure I would have signed it. There's no doubt about it. But the longer it went on, obviously I was still scoring a few goals. And other teams were showing interest. And it got to the end of the season, got to the playoffs, and there was more speculation. And obviously Sunderland came in, Leeds came in, Celtic. And I thought long and hard about it. I went on holiday. And it's funny, Mick McCarthy was in the same resort as us. He was in Portugal. And I got a phone call to say, would I go meet him for a chat? So I went to meet him. And he didn't have to sell the club to me because I knew all about the club, you know, the fan base and the history and all sorts to go with it. And he sort of laid out his plans, what they were going to do in the Premier League and what he thought he saw my role as. And it was an opportunity I couldn't turn down. I could have went to Leeds, who would have been in the Championship, and Leeds offered me a better deal. They offered me an extra year as well. Kevin Blackwell, the manager, but I just thought it's now or never. And Sunderland being my boyhood club, I couldn't turn it down, as much as I didn't really want to leave Ipswich.
Yeah, so obviously around that sort of time, you spoke about Mick McCarthy just then, but Ipswich fans listening or watching this interview will obviously know the likes of Mick McCarthy and Roy Keane well after their time in Suffolk. You also played under them both during your time at Sunderland. Take me through your time at the club playing under those two managers, and why you didn't make the impact you probably thought you could when you went back home.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, at Sunderland, we struggled as a team. You know, it was a tough season. I think Mick didn't have the money he would have wanted. You know, you need money in the Premier League. There's no doubt about it. There's a big jump from the Championship to the Premier League. And a lot of the games were obviously underdogs. He didn't get the players in he wanted. And like I've just said, it was a struggle. You know, it took us a while to win our first game. And maybe it's the tactics as well. You know, it was men behind the ball. We had to keep it tight. And it didn't really, if I'm perfectly honest with you, suit my style of play. But then again, we've gone to the Premier League and I wasn't expecting to be, go on, Tommy, you've got a licence, free roll, get yourself forward in the box, because I knew it was going to be totally different. You wouldn't get the amount of opportunities you do in the Championship. So it was a different ball game altogether. And unfortunately, we went down and it was a disaster, really, and a real shame.
So just take yourself back to when you did eventually go back to Sunderland and scoring your first goal at the Stadium of Light in front of a crowd you were once part of. That must have been a moment of pure elation. What was it like for, you know, the boy inside you? You know, were you milking every moment of it?
Yeah, I was actually. Well, it's one of them. I mean, I scored my first goal against Middlesbrough at the Riverside, which was live on Sky, which was a great feeling because I've being the local lad, you seem to get a bit more stick than everyone else. So I had a lot of friends ringing me up and colleagues saying, "What's going on at Sunderland? Why aren't you doing this? And why aren't you that?" And blah, blah, blah. So obviously, I get my first goal there, and I'm obviously buzzing and delighted. And I'm thinking, "Where's all these phone calls at now? They're not ringing me now." But that's the way it is. But yeah, the first goal at the Stadium of Light against West Ham, I just ran. I think I ran towards the halfway line. Utter relief, really. But if I could have changed them goals to have stayed in the Premier League, obviously that would have been a better feeling.
So you've already just touched upon relegation during this interview, but from experiencing relegation from the Premier League once before with Ipswich, you know, as we touched upon earlier, I mean, in regards to sort of Sunderland's relegation, was it an altogether a different type of sadness for you to deal with purely because of that connection of being a hometown boy?
I think I felt it more at Sunderland, yeah, definitely. Because I'd played the majority of the season at Sunderland, whereas at Ipswich I was sort of a young kid being signed, didn't really play much up until the back end of the season. It still hurt at Ipswich, don't get me wrong, because I was part of the team that actually it was finalised when we got relegated. at Liverpool. But Sunderland, I felt it more, living sort of from the area, family, friends, people who I know. I felt it a lot more because I'd played all season as well.
So from 2006 onwards, Tommy, you found yourself out of favour and going out on loan to Preston North End. During that spell, you actually played against Sunderland, who were your parent club at the time. That must have been a strange thing to get your head around.
It was very strange. Paul Simpson, the Preston manager, I think maybe it was a Tuesday and we were playing them on the Saturday. And I just said to him, listen, what's the deal here at the weekend? And he said, well, I haven't heard anything from Roy. There's nothing in the Sunderland contract that we've signed with them saying you're not allowed to play against us. As far as I know, you're playing. And I thought, well, it's a bit strange, and I don't think many clubs do that. But I thought, great, and went on the Saturday, and it was a point of proof for myself because obviously Roy had come in, and when he came in, I was injured for 3 weeks, and he brought new players in, and they hit the ground running. He did really well, and I didn't really get much of a chance. So that's hence the reason I went to Preston, and I thought, I'm going to show him. It was at the Stadium of Light, massive crowd, and we beat them 1-0. And it was one of them, do I celebrate or do I sort of try and keep my emotions in tick? But I'm thinking, screw you, Roy, you know what I mean? You've let me go and you've let me play. And maybe he was trying to be clever because obviously he's a big personality. He's an absolute legend, you know what I mean? But it was a new job for him. He was a new manager. He was a rookie manager. And maybe he thought, oh, just let him play. So maybe he was being a bit too cocky, arrogant. But on that day, it backfired. And I went home that night and I was pretty pleased because we'd won, even though I beat Sunderland, who were my team, really. And hence he recalled us the week after, I think it was.
So the following season, the boys of Ipswich Town came back again for your services. Why do you think they kept you on their radar? And why did the prospect of a third spell at Portman Road interest you?
Well, again, I thought I had unfinished business there. I think leaving when we got beaten in the playoffs for the second year on the bounce, I just thought, let's go back and can I make a difference? Can we actually do it? And a big reason was Jim McGillen being the manager. Obviously I have a fantastic relationship with him, a fantastic player, and he was ringing us, and it was one of them, I want to play for him. He's a real character, and it was a fantastic experience to go back and play under him. So as soon as he made that known, that was the club I was coming back to.
Before we get on to the next question, Tommy, there's always been this stickler in my mind about that period under Jim McGillen. We always seemed to do really well at home, but couldn't get a result away from home. What was going on in the dressing room?
It was crazy, wasn't it? Yeah, the home form was outstanding. The away form was terrible. We just couldn't put our finger on it. I'm sure the management team and we're thinking about everything. Sometimes we change personnel, we change tactics, the way we set up, and it just didn't work. I don't know why and how, and it's crazy. It's mental, really, because we approach games, the same sort of way, but maybe it was a mentality thing. But bizarre, really bizarre, considering our home form was superb.
So given that you had another consecutive period with Ipswich where you played, consecutively well, you eventually joined Sheffield Wednesday where you enjoyed the first part of your time there. But I read somewhere that it ended in a dispute with manager Gary Megson. Did you enjoy your time there at all?
He lived in the same villages as well. Brian Law signed me at Sheffield Wednesday. It's funny because when Jim left, Jim was sort of saying, listen, I don't know what's going to happen with me. Your contract's out, you're up in the summer. He said, if you can get yourself sorted, get yourself sorted. This was probably about April time. I think Jim more or less said, if we don't get in the playoffs, my job will probably be, going to someone else. And there was talk of the takeover happening and all this amount of money coming in and bits and bobs. So I actually signed with Sheffield Wednesday. I did like a pre-contract with them. I knew where I was going before the season finished. And it's just as well because obviously there was a lot of rumours about who was getting the job, and Roy Keane was linked. And then Jim obviously gets a sack, and then Roy gets the job. So I'm thinking, I'm pleased, I'm sorted, you know what I mean? Because I think there was only
you
one
already
place
had your
out.
bags packed then, mate. You already had those packed and ready to go then.
Yeah, I mean, and he came in, and listen, I've got no problems with him whatsoever. We got on pretty well. It's just sometimes if your face doesn't fit and the manager has his own ideas and he brings his own players in, that's fine. Do you know what I mean? I haven't got any problems with that. And he walks in when he got announced, and I'm sort of sat at the front of in the dinner hall, sort of the canteen, sitting down waiting for this meeting, and he just sort of looked at me and he went, "All right, Tommy, nice to see you again." And I'm like, phew. Yeah, it's not as nice to see you, but I'll be gone soon.
So just quickly back to Sheffield Wednesday then. What happened with Gary Mason?
Oh, sorry, yeah, going back to that then, yeah. Gary Mason, he came in, made us captain, lived in the same village as me, so I used to see him quite a lot. And again, a good bloke, you know, a real straight-talking bloke, you know, a bit old school. And again, that was coming towards the end of the season. And I think if I'd played another 4 or 5 games, started them, I was due a year on my contract. And he pulled me and he just said, "Listen, we can't give you the deal what you've had." And I said, "Well, that's fair enough." And he said, "But we'll look after you at the end of the season. You'll get a new contract." I thought, okay, great. So there was games where I wasn't playing because obviously they didn't want this new contract to trigger. And it gets to the end of the season, so I've gone in and he's more or less gone, "Well, Tommy, I'm sorry, but there's nothing on the table." And I thought, well, it's funny because 4 or 5 weeks ago he told us that I was getting a new deal, and there was a bit of sort of, you know, exchanges made. But at the end of the day, you take people for the word, and obviously things change in that time, and you move on.
So after playing for Sheffield Wednesday, you went on to play for Huddersfield Town before joining Swindon Town in 2012. So tell me what it was like to play for Swindon, and in particular under the management of someone like Paolo Di Canio.
Superb. It was fascinating, you know. What a character. I remember going down. His agent rang me in the summer. I had just left Huddersfield, which was a great year. I had a fantastic time. Obviously, we got promoted at Wembley. But his agent rang me and it was Phil Spencer. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute. He left us a message and he said, "This is Paolo Di Canio's agent, Phil Spencer." And I thought, location. Someone's messing about here. Someone's winding me up. So I thought, I'll leave this. So it rang again. So I answered the phone and I went, "Oh, how are we doing?" He went, "Oh, this is Phil Spencer." He said, "Paolo Di Canio's agent. Would you like to come and sign for Swindon?" So I thought, okay. So he says, "We'll book you a train. You can come down for talks. He wants to see you tomorrow." I'm like, "Tomorrow?" I went, "No problem, I'll be down." So I get the train down and I goes in his room at the club, his little office. And he's sat there with his Italian sort of hierarchy. And he went, "By the way," he says, "I don't like this English mentality of days off. If you sign for me, you train 7 days a week, no days off. And I'm looking at him, thinking, okay. His plans, everything he has for the club. And I thought, what an opportunity this is to play for this guy. It's so passionate, so intense. I thought, I want to go over it. I want to try it. So I signed. We ended up going to Italy pre-season for 2 weeks, which was the hardest 2 weeks of my life. We trained 3-4 times a day, ridiculous amount of running. You know, you'd do 1,200 meters, but you'd do like 25 of them. It was like mad numbers, just crazy. But it was the fittest I had felt probably since I was as a kid. You know, I was in great shape and really enjoyed the year. But I think we got the day 76, and then we finally got a day off. And he classed that as flying back from Italy, I think it was, for the day off. So it was crazy, but enjoyable and mad at the same time. But his theatrics on the sidelines, his team meetings, his analysis of games. You draw a game on a Saturday, the next day you'd be in 6 o'clock in the morning, video. It was crazy. And I thought I'd seen everything in football, but it was certainly an eye-opener. But I loved him. I loved playing for him and I loved his methods. And you don't realise how much, when he was saying all these things, that you reflect and you think, he was right. everything he said, he was right.
See, that's funny you say that. So obviously you took your first steps into coaching whilst with Swindon. Was he, part of that impact? You were then given the opportunity to take charge. What was going through your mind at that point during your football career?
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted to be a manager, from maybe getting to 30 or 31, I thought I could have a go at this. I really fancy it, and there was problems behind the scenes at Swindon. I think Paolo was wanting a bit more money to get 3 players in. We were top of the league at the time. We were flying. I think he just wanted to get 3 in to strengthen in case we got injuries and just to make sure we got over the line, and got promoted. But I think he was already over budget with what he was allowed to bring in, and the owners sort of said no, and then new owners came in and he had a bit of arguments for them. Anyway, he left. He walked out. I think you all know what happened. He got into the club in the middle of the night, took all his stuff down, and he was away. He didn't see him again. So the chairman at the time sort of came up to us and he went, listen, a couple of the lads have come up to me and rang me and said, listen, give Tommy Miller and Darren Ward a chance at taking the team for the rest of the season. And we got the phone call and we were more than happy to do it, for a couple of games. But it was tough because both of us were playing and both of us still wanted to play. So it was hard doing things on the field at the same time as sort of who was going to do the subs. And we had the youth team coach help us as well, Jamie Pittman. But at the same time, it was tough. But I enjoyed it for the brief time we did it. And looking back now, I think, was that an opportunity for me to be a manager? But at the same time, I wanted to still play. I was still fit enough. I still wanted to play football. And then they brought Kevin MacDonald in and Mark Cooper, who then took it towards the end of the season.
So after your departure from Swindon, as you say, you still had some energy left in the legs to continue playing, as a professional, with spells at Bury and a return as a prodigal son to Hartlepool, where you started your career. But before dropping down to the National League with Halifax Town, is that where you decided to kind of hang up your boots then, was it?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know what I was going to do when I left Hartlepool. Did I want to play? Did I want a coaching job? And then Halifax rang me and said, listen, why don't you come in and play a few games? I think this was about October time. And I thought, right, I'll come in. They were struggling. I thought I'll go try and help them out. They were part-time, which suited us, really, for my stage of my career. So I went there, and I think after the first game, the manager got the sack. Darren Kelly got the sack, and the assistant manager got the job, Jim Harvey. And he just said, listen, I'm going to need someone to help me. Will you help me? And I thought, perfect. It was a great opportunity for me to sort of get on the ladder, to help with the coach and take the training. And that was more or less when I decided to sort of not play as much and help out with the team, really, from that side of things.
I think you also had a spell as an assistant manager. I'm not sure if you're still there at the moment, but it was at Spennymoor Town. Is that right?
I am still there,
yeah.
Fantastic club, fantastic chairman, going in the right direction, big plans, big ambitions. Got beat in the playoff final last year off Chorley on penalties, which was a real shame. And we 6th as it stands now, but obviously the season's finished because of what's going on. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It's a great club, and like I said, it's a fantastic learning curve for me, and hopefully, you never know what's around the corner.
Looking back on your career then, Tommy, that's included playing against some of the best players and teams in the world and scoring memorable goals for our club as well as, other clubs as well. If you had to pick one or two highlights from your career collectively and personally, what would they be?
I think for Ipswich, scoring at Anfield, the Cop End, was a fantastic sort of personal achievement for myself. As much as Sunderland, when I was growing up, Liverpool were a team I used to watch and sort of follow. And the whole sort of the atmosphere, the Anfield, when they sing "You Never Walk Alone," it's just a memorable sort of experience, really. And like I said, to score there as well was a fantastic sort of, from a personal point of view. There's been quite many, highs, winning the playoff final with Huddersfield, even though I missed the penalty. But we'll not mention that. But make my debut for Ipswich, a Premier League debut. There's quite a lot, Yes, there's lows along the way. It's not all sort of highs, but I've had some good times. And scoring goals is what I enjoyed best. And obviously at Ipswich, that was my best time in my career, really, because I had a manager who believed in me, and I had very good players around me as well. And the whole team sort of just fitted into place. It was a pleasure and an honour to play for them.
So you mentioned briefly there that you're obviously at Symonds Town now. So apart from the sort of management role you've got there, what is it? What else are you up to during your spare time away from football these days?
Well, I did have an alternative education sort of business, which lads and girls who don't go to school for whatever reason, being kicked out for all different reasons, backgrounds and stuff like that. I did that for 2 years. With a friend of mine who's now gone on to do it by himself. So I've stepped away from it now, and I'm looking to get into football full time, really, if possible. Something might happen with spinning mower soon, or you never know what's around the corner. But obviously that's my bread and butter, football, and that's what I'm hoping to do in the future to do it full time.
As we spoke at the beginning of the interview, watching Sunderland as a child clearly had a helping hand on your professional career, Tommy. Now, as a father yourself, what experiences have you shared with your children surrounding football, and what are their thoughts having grown up with a father who's played in the Premier League?
Yeah, I've got twins who are 13-year-old, a boy and a girl, and my boy Tommy's obsessed with football, loves it. A bit like Jim Magilton, I think he takes the ball to bed with him. But no, he loves it. He loves watching it, and he loves playing it, and he's doing all right. He's coming on quite well. My daughter Freya, she likes her gymnastics and likes the trampoline, and so we're pretty active as a family, and we do lots of things together. And obviously, I show them all my DVDs and my videos, and get a look at this. And when Renegade Statman puts them on Twitter on this day, I make sure I forward them on to them. So it's great.
So we've obviously touched upon your goals that you scored throughout your career, including penalties as well. But I don't think we've touched upon tonight, remembering those sort of celebrations that you had, especially during your time at Ipswich. One that sticks out was the snooker cue celebration with the corner flag. Was there anything behind that we didn't know?
No, just I used to play snooker quite a lot. Me and Shefke used to go to Riley's, obviously, which was across the road from Portman. Well, I don't know if it's still there. We used to go there nearly every other afternoon, really, and get a few frames in, and it was basically just that, really. If one of us scores tomorrow, we'll get the corner flag out and do a little cue action with it.
So just quickly as well, with the sort of teammates that you've played alongside, especially at Ipswich, I believe you was quite close with Pablo and Shefke. Are you still in touch with these type of players?
I am, yeah. I spoke to Pablo last week. Just touching on Pablo, I mean, what a fantastic player.
Yeah.
He was, I mean, when we went on that field, I just knew where he was. I didn't even have to look. If I played the ball around the corner, 99% of the time, he'd be there. And with his back to goal, there was no one better. He was excellent, outstanding. But yeah, I still speak to Pablo, and I spoke to Shefke the other week as well, who's looking to get into management again. I think he's hoping to get into England at some club, and I'm pretty close to both of them. As I am with others, I still speak to quite a few more lads from my time there, because you make friends for life. As much as you don't see them as much, you still sort of hear from them every now and again.
Well, Tommy, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the channel. I remember you fondly. I mean, the first year I had a season ticket was 04-05, and I was just a young whippersnapper at the time. But I didn't know what football was back then. Obviously, I appreciate it now. But in terms of what you brought, the memories and the times we had back then were absolutely brilliant. And thanks for coming on tonight, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, appreciate it, Tommy. Thank you.
No problem whatsoever. Thanks, lads. I appreciate it. And just hope Ipswich can be back in the promised land soon, or certainly back in the Championship, where at least is where they belong.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Appreciate it, Tommy. Thanks, mate.
Cheers. Cheers, lads. Thank you.
Cheers,
lads.
bye.
Bye.